So as you guys know, Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX was arrested a few days ago in the Bahamas and has been in prison ever since. However, it was sort of rumored that the conditions at the Bahamas prison wasn't very good. It's called Fox Hill. I've seen some photos and now we got some video of the place, and frankly, it doesn't look very good at all. And there was essentially sort of rumors of like maybe he would crack and essentially say, you know what? I'm just going to want to go back to the USA, send me home, essentially. And you can see this here. It says Sam Bankman-Fried's harsh Bahamas jail could shift his stance on extradition. And it turns out, the rumor is now that it actually may happen that on Monday, he's going to essentially go to the Bahamas court and say, hey, I waive my rights, send me back to the USA. This is also saying that this is different than what he originally told his lawyers to fight and try to stay in Bahamas, because some of the things that were coming out were saying that if a person were to want to fight going back to the USA, you could theoretically stay in Bahamas for like up to 30 years. I mean, like theoretically, if you're going to fight the extradition. So if indeed it's true and he comes back to the USA, he would most likely be held in New York. I believe the charges were filed in the Southern District of New York. We've talked about this before on the channel. Here's some more details here. It says, at his initial court hearing in Manhattan, this is after he would return to the USA, Bankman-Fried would be asked to enter a plea and a judge would make a determination on bail. So basically he'd come in and he'd say, okay, I'm guilty, or I plead not guilty. And I'd love to hear in the comments what you think he's going to plead. That's going to be interesting. If I had to bet right now, I bet you he's going to plead not guilty and we'll have a trial, but we'll see. Who knows? Also, too, it says here, the attorney added that such a hearing must take place within 48 hours of arrival in the USA, though it would likely be sooner. So this is the part that's going to be really interesting. Is like if he essentially goes to the Bahama court on Monday and says, hey, send me back to the USA, he could theoretically go back to the USA within 24 hours and then say like another like 24 hours after that. So basically this coming week, we could get a plea, either a plea deal or he pleads not guilty. Who knows? But I think this week will be really, really interesting if you're interested in FTX news. Now, one of the things that is also going on is we talked about earlier about the conditions of the prison sort of affecting him making this change, suddenly wanting to come back to the USA. The details don't sound very good, the prison. So I showed you guys pictures already, but I want to go over some of the details with you as well. The official described the young ex-billionaire as a little arrogant, that's a quote, a little arrogant, but overall, quote, a nice guy who kept himself and seemed awfully scared. So it's interesting because, this doesn't seem out of the question, right? If you're held in prison, Sam Bankman-Fried is a little arrogant, he's a nice guy, and he's scared. Awfully scared, actually, is how he says. So that sounds pretty reasonable to me. He wouldn't laugh when the other men held in the same room jokingly asked him how he managed to make so much money. Oh, interesting. So people in prison then know about the money. Oh, wow. That's really interesting. And I'm kind of curious, guys, that you're putting on this. I'm just thinking to myself out loud with you. If you're Sam Bankman-Fried in prison, how do you think other prisoners treat you? Like, I'll give you an example. My understanding was, say, someone like, say, Mike Tyson goes to prison. He's kind of like prisoner's hero kind of thing. You don't mess with Mike Tyson. I'm just saying, for example. Sam Bankman-Fried goes to prison, and we all know he's rich, and maybe he stole a bunch of money. Like, how do people, because prisoners, if you guys don't know, prison culture, they have like different rules or not rules, but it's like, they think about people differently in a different way. So I'm just kind of thinking, out loud, what do you guys think if Sam Bankman-Fried's in prison, how are people going to treat him? Just be curious what you guys think. Also, it says, earlier this week, as Sam Bankman-Fried was watching a local TV news report about himself, the official asked him how he felt. He responded unperturbed, quote, "It's okay, I deal with it," the official recalled. That's really interesting. So he saw a report of himself on TV and it's like, how do you feel? One of the things that, when you read this stuff and you guys see this stuff on TV, and we have a lot of access to Sam Bankman-Fried, I think, in my opinion, the stuff that he's really in trouble, he's really in prison, he really could go to prison for his whole life, I think this stuff is really starting to sink in. One of the things that I'm interested, though, is does he actually know that when he comes to the USA, what his conditions are going to be like? Does he have full access to internet and TV? I'm going to assume no, but I don't know. I don't know what kind of access. From the pictures that we can see, if he is indeed in the Bahamas prison, it's not good. One of the things that I was reading about this as well is in the Bahamas place where he's at, where it basically changed his mind, is they're just way overcrowded and there's fights with gangs and stuff like that. It sounds as bad as you think it would be. Let's read some of the more details. You'll get a sense of it. The facility has different sections that separate violent from non-violent offenders, but these populations are arbitrarily mixed due to understaffing or attempts to avoid fights between rival gangs. Defendants have been arraigned but are not yet tried are usually located in the remand center where Bankman-Fried would likely be transferred to. So he wouldn't necessarily be with the general population, what they're saying, but they're also saying that the way it's organized, not so great. And I was also thinking about this out loud because I just don't deal with prisons that much, to be really frank. Probably one of the reasons why you don't say exactly which cell someone's in or exactly where someone is, maybe because of like prison break kind of stuff, is that, I'm just thinking that would be a security risk, wouldn't it be? I'm not talking crazy stuff, but because I guess I watch too much movies, but I think that's a real thing, that maybe prisons have a policy of like full privacy in that regard. So because we're kind of speculating where he's being held, and I'd be curious your opinion, but I think that's just my opinion when I read this stuff together. You can see more, but the prison official said Bankman-Fried could also be transferred to a block with maximum security area that has been renovated. It houses inmates in individual cells isolated from the population for safety reasons. So some of the pictures that we've been seeing before, you guys, there's like 8 beds to room kind of thing. I've read more of the stuff to where there really is a lot of infestation, be it maggots, rats, these kind of things. It just doesn't sound good at all. You can read more details here. You can see here. The sleeping situation is not much better. Talking about the prison in Bahamas. Inmates often sleep on sheets placed on top of a cardboard on the floor, and many have complained of bed sores, hives, overall body pain. And let's see. Yeah, and the other thing, here you can see down here, it says 2021 Human Rights Reports Bahamas for the U.S. State Department found the cells were also infested with rats, maggots, insects. The facility holds 1,617 inmates, even though it's built to hold 1,000. And then the other thing is too, which I think is worth mentioning, is the place he's going in New York is also not very good. If indeed the report is true that he's going to go to Manhattan and stuff, he would probably be held here. This is a picture of it. It would be like a detention or prison, I guess you could call it. It's in Brooklyn. It doesn't look very nice. I was reading stuff about it. They had like power outage problems. They have overcrowded problems. I even Googled it as well. There is a description actually of it. This is MDC is what it's called. And it's like Metropolitan Detention Center. I think that's what it stands for. And they actually, I didn't know this, guys. I just never looked at this stuff before. But there are actually Yelp reviews on prisons. That is a thing. And this is one of the reviews on Yelp. You can look it up for yourself. The person says, the workers tend to be cruel. This is the one in New York where he would go for probably about a year, because the trial wouldn't happen for a year maybe. Anyway, so the one in New York is, the workers tend to be cruel, overpaid from all the area. They know many people in there, and thus, if you don't know them, you are getting busted for one too many blankets, right? So essentially what this is describing is that kind of prison, is you got to make friends with the prison guards. Also, too, as it goes on, it says like, at mail call, the cops get jealous of the mail you get and it goes missing. This is exactly what you see in the movies kind of stuff. Who knows? I have no verification of this at all. I'm just reading a Yelp review. And then just goes on, says the food is horrible, the dorms are loud, the laundry doesn't work, and it's so cold in here. So it just sounds, the whole thing sounds bad. So from Sam Bankman-Fried's point of view, we don't know how much access he has to outside information, right? We also don't know, for example, how often he talks to his lawyers and what his lawyers are advising him. I've heard some rumors here and there. We just don't know these kind of things, but we will find out sort of like what happens if the rumor is indeed true that on Monday, and remember this is from sources, right? So someone just tips it off and say, hey, Sam's been talking about wanting to come back to the USA, and we'll see. And once he gives the order, the Bahamas is not that far away from New York. They can fly him there in like a few hours. So he would probably be back. And this is a high profile case. It is also dealing with a lot of money. The other thing that I thought about too, I'm just talking out loud with you guys, and again, I just watch a lot of movies the same way you guys do, but I think this is the way the world really works. If this guy stole a bunch of money from, say, mafia people, which I mentioned before, because crypto money has a lot of dirty money in it and just all kinds of money in it, there's no reason why like mafia would have given money to like, say, a prisoner, bribing prisoners to, essentially put a hit on him or something like that. I think there's a safety risk in the Bahamas. There's probably a safety risk in New York as well. And there's all a number of things. So, if I'm Sam, I would probably rather be in a USA prison over Bahama prison. That would be my guess. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one. But either way, though, I don't know how he's going to get out of this at all. The only thing I could think of is like, if he has information that incriminates other people, you got to make some sort of deal. But it's going to be tough because essentially you stole money from people and also you frauded people by essentially, over trading and printing a bunch of fake money. So I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this stuff. I think we're moving into later stages of this whole thing, and more info is going to come out, and I think more people are going to be implicated. And as if you saw my last video on the FTX YouTubers. So thanks again for everyone for watching. Love to hear your details on the thing. Do you think Sam is indeed coming back to the USA? And do you think that's the right decision? And do you think he will plead guilty or plead not guilty? Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for your time, and I'll catch you guys next video.